And what about you? How you've been?
The beginning of the whole quarantine was a bit challenging for me because I had a lot of jobs or I planned some trips during this time. Yeah, so everything was cancelled and rescheduled. So in the beginning it was really hard and I did not know how it will continue. But now I had a few jobs in Berlin, which also been really cool. And yeah, the jobs just been rescheduled and not cancelled. So I still hope after this crisis, everything will go back to normal and jobs will still happen. And yeah, also trying to stay creative, trying to stay busy somehow during these days.
Yeah.
And yeah, also working on my prints and presets, trying to get some digital products or other products out there, which I can sell during quarantine.
Yeah, I guess in general, it's a pretty good time also to do some work on, I don't know, websites or basically try to set up other kind of income streams, which are like separated from like one-to-one interaction. Because I don't know, for me, I was doing a lot of workshops and they were all canceled, obviously, because people can't travel. So that hit me or my business quite hard. But yeah, maybe it's a good idea to set up additional income streams anyways. So
yeah, definitely.
I heard on the podcast, Konrad, that you were having an exhibition in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
What's the situation? Is it open by now? Can we go?
No, the coffee is closed. I mean, I think it will open Monday again, but with no crowd, like just the pickup.
Okay.
But yeah, the exhibition is postponed, so there's no date for the vernissage yet because we don't know when everything can open again. And then yeah, you need a bit of time in advance to set the event and everything. So I can't see it really in May, so maybe in June. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. At least it's gonna still happen and it's not cancelled, right? So
yeah, it's gonna happen. Like half of the prints are already done, and
Jack,
like,
hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I had some internet issues.
no worries.
Welcome.
Yeah, like as I said, half of the prints are done, and the other half is already like finished to print. So I could do it in 2 days, 3 days, but yeah, let's see when the cafe opens and when the space is available for people again.
Yeah, let us know. Can't wait to go visit and see all your nice work.
yeah, I will spread the news.
Yeah.
And how is it going besides that for you? Any rescheduled trips or?
Yeah, I had like similar to you and like probably all of you. I had a few things in the line and they were all postponed or they were canceled even. But I have one or maybe two partners that are still producing content, and I can do this from Berlin or in Berlin.
Yes.
So I'm pretty glad about this opportunity. But apart from this, 3 bigger trips were canceled. I was quite sad, but on the other hand, it's just like how it is.
Yeah. And I also think people spend a lot of time on social media these days. So some companies will definitely need content to do promotion now and everything. So I think there are still some jobs, but it's just hard to travel out of Berlin or out of Germany somehow.
Yeah, also productions are a bit harder to do because of all the social distancing regulations. So you have to be aware that if you're film or photographed in a public space, that you won't come too close to a crowd, that you don't have a big team with a lot of people close to each other. So there's also some difficulties when you want to do something bigger in Berlin.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course, going out to shoot some photos on your own is easy as always. Maybe the public transport is a thing that you could avoid.
Yeah.
Apart from this, gladly here in Berlin, it's still possible to just do a photo walk or something small. Yeah.
I mean,
Jack, how is it going for you?
It's pretty good actually. Since photographing, just as an intro for also for everyone, like I'm not like a full-time photographer yet. I also have a 9-to-5 job where I'm working in a medical company designing products there. So we are still operating. I'm still going for my job, so which is keeping me busy. On the other hand, also, as Marcel mentioned, right now social media is booming a lot. So I'm also trying to expand my presence in different platforms as much as I can, starting from TikTok.
Oh, I'm excited.
Wow, yeah. And you said you're not a full-time photographer. You're planning on leaving your full-time job soon?
Sure, yeah, in the future, yeah.
That's great to hear. Follow the dream, huh?
Definitely. But it's also like engineering is also something which I like doing, so which has helped me to travel to all these countries, and this is how I got into travel photography. And so I just don't want to give up as soon as just like that, but when the right opportunity arrives.
Yeah, but also for you, some jobs has been rescheduled or cancelled, right?
Definitely, yes. On the other hand, I'm doing something productive at home, just creating content, improving my skills, also online presence, and also reviewed some gadgets. Like I still got some lights and other things from some companies which I was reviewing and giving them product photography pictures for them. So which is still good. Even in this crisis period, like not all the businesses are completely shut down. They still have to do some kind of marketing for their products. So it's really nice. You can still reach out to certain companies and still get some products that can relate to your niche, and in exchange for either money or for exposure.
Yeah, I think the company they slowly start. Like the end of February and the whole March, there was kind of like a shock situation where there was almost all of the emails were cancellations, and like this. Let's keep this in mind after this is over. And now it's starting that the content is going more towards Corona topics or kind of like this. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's quite interesting. The first shock is over. I have to
say. It's getting slightly normally on some sites. Also next week, some shops will open again. So let's see how it develops. But in the past, also after they made it easier, or they they removed some of the laws. Mostly the numbers get higher again. So I don't know how it will go, but let's see. I'm also trying to be positive and hope that everything will go in a good way, and also really soon. Okay, guys. Definition of travel photography.
Like, how did you guys start? For example, Fabian. I just had had a look in your website, and you studied architecture, right? And how did you enter travel photography?
Yeah, this is also something I would be interested to hear from you guys. Have you been a traveler in the first place and then became a photographer, or have you been a photographer and then started traveling also? So for me, it was definitely, I started traveling first, but almost simultaneously, like the passion for photography grew. And while studying architecture, I was always more on the design part and like the aesthetics of everything, but never interested in going to a construction site and yelling at people that they have to do everything again. So once this became more and more obvious, I just had to take the leap and like basically follow the passion for photography. And since then, trying to make it work. And so far till Corona, it did work, kind of. It's getting harder now, but I mean, it's not the easiest job anyways, right? So it's always a struggle, I suppose. But as long as it's your passion, you're willing to I don't know, maybe not doing financially as well as in a job for the government or stuff like that. So yeah.
But you always have to consider anyway that if you work as a freelancer, like a one-man show, that there's always can always be a period of time where you have no income. Not only in Corona times, you can be injured, you can be sick with whatever, or just something happens in your family. So Now it's just that everyone is in the same situation. That's the new thing.
No, but I mean, I ran my own architecture office for like 3 or 4 years with 2 friends, so I had some how experience and like being self-employed and all of the stuff that comes with it. So I guess that also helped me set up this business I'm working on now. I guess there's a lot of like fields where you can grab information and experience from and put into your new kind of business. So
yeah, totally. I think travel photography for me, it's about exploring the planet, right? It's about getting out there and explore the external, but also the internal. I think photography for me has been a way of finding my own voice and being able to self-express through the images that I create. I would always be the introvert type of person, right? And not being able to express myself so much with words. And I think through photography, I think I found this way of expressing myself. And I started out, I mean, it's funny because for me, I'm a bit more focused on landscape photography and adventure and the outdoors. If you look at my Instagram, that's the first thing that you'll see, right? So I started out first mountaineering, doing hiking and then mountain expeditions. And I studied before communications and digital media back in Mexico. So during my career, I tried to find a way of put it all together, right? My career, which was communication, and something that I loved so much, that was the mountains and the outdoors. So yeah, I started reaching out to tourism magazines in Mexico and stuff like that. And little by little, I started to find my own path and figuring out that what I wanted to do the most was travel photography and getting to know the world and exploring more and more.
For me, it was always the same, like for Fabian. I went traveling and bought my first camera for this trip. Before, I never used a camera or something like this, just my smartphone, maybe 2 times in a month for some party pictures, and that's it. But through this trip, I bought the first camera, took about 10,000 photos in 7 months, and really tried out a lot of different stuff, landscape. I tried out long exposures and everything. And this is also where the passion for photography started for me. But also where I realized traveling is really nice because you learn a lot about yourself and about the world. And for me, it made a lot of things easier. And yeah, the dream with the travel photography is to inspire people to do the same and also to go out and see the world themselves. And it's always a nice feeling because I think it helps almost everybody. And yeah, this is also the passion driving me behind that, sharing my view and motivating people to go out there because the world is beautiful and there's really a lot to see. So
it's pretty interesting because I think travel photography is pretty contrary to what the rest of the media is like reporting back home, because travel photography almost shows only the like super beautiful places, like those epic sceneries of mountains or outdoors, whatever, while normally the news you get from other countries through the other media like newspapers, TV shows, whatever, most of the time it's rather on the negative side. So yeah, I can absolutely relate to what Marcel said. Yeah, pretty much the same for me. It's nice to bring back some like nice news from out in the world, that the world is a nice and beautiful place and not as dangerous as a lot of people want to make you believe it is. So, yeah.
True. Yeah.
Great, yeah. And what was the last trip you guys went on? Sorry, if I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just asking where Marcela is gone. Now she's back. My last trip was to Asia, actually, in February 2020, so when the Corona crisis began. And I also had to shorten this trip because I was quite unsure at this time. I was in Hong Kong, and I got an email by the flight company that my flight back to Germany is canceled. So I needed to find another flight, and I had to shorten my trip, or our trip. I was with my girlfriend, and came back on the 13th or 14th of February with a stop in Dubai. And here in Germany, there was Corona was nothing really to talk about at this time. And in Asia, it was completely different. Like everyone was already really aware. Everyone was wearing this mask, like everywhere in Hong Kong, on the streets and everywhere. So I was actually quite shocked when I came back how easy the situation is like how the people look very easy on the situation. And I was always telling my friends and relatives, guys, watch out. This is going to be something for the whole world and not only for Asia. And then,
and it happened.
Yeah, I was quite sure that this will come.
Yeah, wow! Like you were there before and you saw what was going on, right? For me, it's funny because.
Yeah, I mean, when I came to Hong Kong, there were only 16 confirmed cases, which is quite low if you compare to Berlin. They have like 6,000 now, almost. But the hysteria or the fear was very, very visible everywhere. I mean, they had this problems with SARS in 2002, which spread out from Hong Kong back then. So the community or the most of the people that live there, they are still aware of this situation. And they can remember, apart from child and teenagers. But I think that's one of the reasons why they really kept going and taking strict measurements at the beginning, strict measures. Yeah, and then they did pretty well actually, because they're really close to China. Like they have several border crossings, and a lot of travelers go in and out, Hong Kong and China, so they did a really good job.
Yeah, for sure, they did.
But that's interesting, because I had kind of the contrary experience. I've been to Indonesia till like mid of March, and almost till we left, Indonesian government said they don't have any cases. Well, the days before I left, they confirmed the first cases in Jakarta. And everybody was like super chill over there. Like nobody was wearing masks, nothing. And then flights got canceled, came back to Germany. And here I really dove into the whole situation. So it was almost the opposite. Opposite.
Yeah. Because of 1 month gap between us, I think, right?
It's funny for me. It was.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No, sorry. I think it was a similar experience for me, like you. Everything seemed like a movie in an outside world. I was in Iceland for like 10 days or 2 weeks in the beginning of March, and I was wondering if I should go or not. But in the end, it had been planned long before, so I did go in the end. But when I was there is when everything went crazy. And I mean, I think there was a lot of people canceling their trips, or I think there was a lot of less people than, like, less crowded than it usually is. So, I mean, that was a good thing, right, for photography. But it was crazy. And when I came back to Germany, it was like, oh, wow, like, this is real, and this is going on. And it was crazy being there. It seemed like a movie.
Yeah, same for me.
For me, it was almost similar. I've been in Barcelona beginning of March, and it was already a topic and people were talking about it, but nobody took it really serious. And for me, everything was quite normal in Barcelona. Everything was open, everywhere, a lot of people, no mask. And as I returned to Germany, it was getting serious, where I went to the store in the morning and I could not buy toilet paper or any bread or any noodles or nothing.
Toilet paper.
Then I realized, okay, something is going to happen here. And 1 week later, the shutdown happened. So, yeah.
And Spain also went crazy, so it's good that you came back to Germany in time.
I left in the right time, definitely. There's also, as I heard, that Spain is like one of the most affected countries now. I decided to stay at home for 3 weeks and self-quarantine myself, because you never know. And but luckily I'm healthy until now, so nothing happened over there.
Yeah, I remember Marcel was there in Barcelona. I said here in Germany, it's starting to get a bit crazy. And it's getting difficult to buy even toilet papers. And he was like, come on, it should not be that bad.
And I was like, go to Amazon, but not even that is working anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I think nobody believed what was really going on.
And yeah, of course, a lot of trips, as same as you guys, like a lot of trips has been canceled this period. Hopefully things get better soon. But yeah, like the options right now are maybe we can just work on improving the skills that we always wanted to work on, like either learning a new software or having more media presence or like selling prints or skill sets, whatever we have right now. And as I mentioned before, also like reviewing products which are related to our niches. But apart from that, how are you guys keeping yourself productive these days?
Yeah, also working a lot on projects which I wanted to do for a long time, because now I can finally do it, like updating the website, updating the portfolio, managing my archive, sorting my pictures, and yeah, there's really a lot to do. So until now, I'm not really bored. Just sometimes on the weekend, it's getting like a bit boring. But besides that, I keep myself really busy with all the things I normally have no time for. So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. I worked a lot, like set up a new website and working on 2 projects I always wanted to do, but never really found the time. I mean, obviously no one's paying for this stuff yet, but I think it's still, as I said in the beginning, a good thing to, I don't know, set up additional income streams, and that's a good time to do the stuff you never had the time to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, travel photography is a niche out there that is getting very popular, right? And there's a lot of people doing travel photography and landscape. And I think there's more photos being taken today than ever.
Yeah.
Because, you know, phones, right? And I think photography and travel photography is about being unique, right? And about finding your own voice and about failing and winning and failing and winning and standing up. So I think these Corona times in which we have to be locked down in our houses, reinventing ourselves is like a push. I see it like a push to get even better at this, right? At finding who you are, at finding your own voice, and seeing things differently. So yeah, I think it's a good thing, but I think it's what we constantly have to be doing. Like we constantly have to be learning and pushing ourselves, not only during these times and these weeks, but all the time.
That's true. Yeah, that's actually true. But I have the feeling that it's getting harder to motivate me week by week. So in the beginning, I was quite okay with having a bit of downtime, a bit of a rest. But after a while now, I mean, I can do these neighborhood walks with my dog, and that's basically the time when I take photos. And I pretty much feel remembered to my very beginnings of Instagram photography, where I was just out in Berlin every day and like literally trying to find spots without any specific target or something. So it's kind of going back to the beginnings at the moment for me.
Wow.
Yeah. But Marcel mentioned to me that right now it's kind of easier or nicer to take pictures of architecture, right? Like with less people around, and if you're taking a walk around your neighborhood, you can still take really cool pictures. And also the weather is getting better, except for the last few days. But
yeah, right now it's really easy, and I think when you go out alone and keep distance from others, and yeah, for me, when I go outside right now, I only use a bicycle, so I try to avoid people in every kind and every form. And yeah, this worked really good for me. And also a lot of locations are right now super empty. So where you normally have to wait half an hour until you have your shot, you can take it in a few minutes and you're done. But yeah, that's just what I do. And also I did 3 weeks of quarantine before, but as I realized, okay, it's getting a bit more normal, and also I'm still healthy after Barcelona. I started to go out from time to time, but here alone or with a bicycle.
I mean, you could also see it as an opportunity, right? How often do you have a situation like that? And you could almost try to also cover it in a kind of documentary style photography, which is not, in my opinion, not too far away from travel photography. So, I mean, how often do you have like a situation like this, which is, I don't know, close to not really a war zone, but it's a really different situation everywhere. So
I never experienced something like this before. So
yeah.
That's interesting what you're saying about the documenting stuff and traveling. I think it's something that we have to take into account, or at least for me, as a nature and landscape photographer. It's not only about capturing something nice, but about telling a story, right?
Yeah.
And we could be positioned. I mean, now places get crowded all the time, right? And we could be like standing together in the same spot, putting the tripod in the same place and taking the same photo, but we can tell a completely different story on what we're seeing. And I think that's where the real value is, right? When it's not about the photo you take, but what you see and the story you tell from that place or from that time or from those people. And that's where it's the real thing.
I'm always wondering, like, how important is it for travel photography to be beautiful in the common sense? Because whenever you see, I mean, normally you associate travel photography with like magazine covers, beautiful beaches, animals, people, whatever, all of that stuff. But to me, it's also covering, I don't know, for example, you go to India, you have the Taj Mahal, of course, it's beautiful, but you also have a lot of poverty, which is also travel photography. It's also telling this story. On the other hand, with the rise of social media, it always feels like people are not at all interested in that, you know? I can see it on my grid, like when I post like more of those like real photos, like engagement is very, very low compared to the really beautiful shots. So I'm wondering what the influence of social media is on the way we take photos, because in the end we want to sell, right? We have to make a living out of that. But like we're know what I'm talking about? Like it's a slim, thin line to walk between like really telling the whole story and delivering photos that really make people want to travel to a certain destination. So
I think it really depends on your purpose of photography. Once you're traveling, I mean, you can do private photos, of course. Then you're also a travel photographer in a wider definition. In a professional way, it really depends on the client or customer that pays you for this. I mean, I can imagine like a hotel group or something like this, like a destination marketing. They want to see the beautiful sites or even maybe the random sites, but in a new way. That's something that I get asked quite often. That they say like, we have these strange buildings, but can you take nice pictures of it? Is it possible? So that's something that some clients would like to incorporate. But then on the other hand, you also mentioned you can do like documentary style and travel photography, and you go for these hidden spots. You go for the, like you said, poverty or whatever, like more authentic places that you wouldn't see when you're on a holiday, and I think that's one of the other sides of travel photography, is showing people the stuff that they wouldn't even see when they are traveling. So I think this is really depends on your client and on the purpose of your photography.
Yeah, I totally think the same, because for me, I shoot architecture a lot. Also in Barcelona, I shoot a lot of architecture, but it's still like travel photography. And so I can also do in Berlin now the same. And for other people who are not living in Berlin, for them, it's still travel photography. So yeah, I think it's always depends on which style you are shooting and also on which client you are shooting for.
Yeah, for sure.
We lost somebody, right?
We have quite a few questions I've seen, like at least two questions asking how to approach to clients when you want to work with international clients or on like international jobs. So guys, maybe you can share a bit of your insights, how you approach clients, how you will get approached by clients. Maybe you can just share some insights, because there was a question.
Jack, do you want to go first?
I did answer there. I just advised her, the person, like she has some experience working here in Berlin, and also lived in Dubai for 5 years, and she has done so many different jobs for websites and magazines, and she has some trouble in finding some international clients. So I just replied with of creating a media kit listing all the projects that she has worked with different customers, and reach out to potential people who might be interested after studying what they really need. Like, for example, they can study what the customer's website looks like or their social media looks like. They can try to understand what their product is, and if they see they are missing on some key elements or in terms of content, we can make a proposal saying this can be done by the person. And it's kind of hard to put a price in the beginning, just so that you don't want to scare them off, but just saying, okay, I can make this better for you. If you are interested, get in touch with me, and then let's discuss. And then from there, if they are interested, then we can negotiate with the price. So this was kind of my suggestion there.
Yeah, I would say almost the same. So it's important to contact companies, brands, or also agencies, and send them like your nice portfolio or your media kit or a small text with the value you can provide them. And when you do this on a regular basis, I think you will get some jobs from time to time, sometimes even more. And when you do the jobs good, the customer will come back to you, and yeah, with a lot of time, you can build like clients or more jobs on a regular basis. This is what I think. And also what helps is like being active on social and going on networking events and stuff like this, because often you just meet people on some events. You are not looking for a job, but they kind of like you and your work, and they offer you a job 2 or 3 weeks later. So I had this a few times. So also, yeah, like being active on social and visiting events, talking to others can really help.
I think something important to consider is like creating a portfolio focused on the niche that you're trying to target, right? Because if you're going to offer some session for a restaurant, you're not going to show them your wedding photographs, right? Like, or your fashion sessions, and sideways works as well. So I think it's important that you separate in your portfolio the different types of photography that you do, and only show them that work. And like, don't tell them, oh, I do travel photography and I do food, but I can also do this, right? Like, they have to know that you're an expert at something and not at a lot of things, so you can also like gain more trust from them.
Definitely agree.
Yes.
Are there more?
Yeah, there are a few other questions as well here.
Yeah, let's go through them. Oh, there's going on a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to reply there as much as I can, but yeah.
Maybe this is.
I checked the first time.
Yeah.
There's, I see someone here asking about taking photos up in the mountains or in remote locations. He asks, do you typically travel solo or bring or hire a team? And I think this depends a lot on what your goal is. Maybe it's something that is, well, I usually, if I'm going to go to the mountains or a remote place, I never go alone, because I think it's anything can happen, right? And for security reasons, it's always better to bring at least someone. But maybe that someone is going to be a friend, or maybe that someone is going to be a couple of friends, and maybe those people can help you, right? Maybe you can offer them something, or like in exchange for their help, and you can just make it in a friendly way. And then if you're going for something big or a very professional or a paid gig that you're going to do up in a remote place, of course, I think it's very important to consider to bring some extra help. and consider that in the budget that you're like the client's going to pay for that, right? So you have to consider that in your plan. But yeah, it's always important to bring someone with you, I would say. Mostly for security reasons.
Especially in the mountains, the weather can change really fast
Yeah.
and things like that. So I think going alone is a bit dangerous, especially when you have a lot of gear and you cannot move fast. So
so a couple of extra hands could help, or even if you're just shooting with natural light and you don't need a lot of equipment, it's always safer to bring someone with you.
And it's also more fun shooting.
Of course.
With somebody else, right? Or hiking with somebody
Totally.
else.
Yeah. Okay, what other question?
From Sophia.
What's the question? This is too much.
We are all reading.
How to show your work to clients.
How to start to build up your business.
Definitely create a website. You can use social media, but I think a website looks more professional. And just upload your finest work there, and also something about you where clients can get to know you or what you are doing a little bit. And yeah, when you have the portfolio done, you can send it to clients via email, or you can also do Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever you prefer to get people on the portfolio, and people who like it will probably send you an email.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to do it. For example, for me, I was working for 1 year after I graduated from university in Mexico. And after that year, in which I was building my whole network, reaching out to clients and increasing my social media, and I had to leave, right? And I came to Berlin, to a whole new city for me, where I didn't know anyone, I didn't even speak the language. And you realize that there is a whole community of creatives out there doing the same and also starting. So don't be afraid to reach out, knock doors, show your photos, and keep shooting until you keep getting better and better at it.
And yes. I also think that just don't wait till everything is like perfect, because it's never going to be perfect. You're going to look at your stuff, like I just said in the chat, you're going to look at your stuff you're creating today in 2 years, and you're going to think, oh my God, it sucks. How could I mean, at least this was the case for me. So you're constantly updating your portfolio, and it's going to get better over time. So don't wait till you reach this level of perfection, because it's never going to be there. You're going to learn new stuff, you're going to implement it, your work is going to get better, and so just keep on updating and learning. And don't be.
But I think this is also what is the fun about, when you just realize half a year later, okay, this looks now way better, what have I done here? And then you realize, okay, somehow I learned something new. And I think this is a really satisfying experience, or really a cool experience to have when you just see the difference yourself.
Don't be afraid to put your work out there, even though it might not be the best work in the world. Just put it out there and see and learn from it, and then
Yeah, even that can help. I don't know, in the beginning I put out a lot of work which I now not like that much. and I think everybody did this, but a lot of people told me like, hey, here there is no contrast, or here this is looking like this, and this helped me to realize what I can do better. And if I had never posted these pictures, nobody had ever told me. So I think it's important just to go for it, and as you told, not try to be perfect. So just have fun in photography, and try a lot of different
stuff. I also think it can help to find people who tell you their honest opinion. Maybe don't show your pictures just to your mom, because she's always going to love your pictures. Maybe show them to people who are like, maybe have like another like fresh view on it, and also going to help you with like pointing out the things that are maybe not perfect, because this is the only way you're gonna improve. Otherwise, you're just gonna think like, oh my God, I'm awesome, I'm gonna send this to National Geographic, but maybe not so much. And also, National Geographic is not the only. I mean, that's the Olymp of let's say travel photography, right? There's so much more stuff like local magazines, in-flight magazines. If you want to sell pictures, stuff like that, maybe don't start with National Geographic.
And I think there is a lot of misconception on social media, right? Like people only see the tip of the iceberg out there, and they don't really see all the hard work that is behind each photo. So don't think that just because we are travel photographers, we are traveling all the time and taking pictures. In fact, I think we do more of everything else but that. We are
absolutely
editing, we are sending proposals, we are,
constantly getting rejected.
Constantly getting rejected.
Exactly. You're going to receive a lot of no's, and you got to keep fighting, and don't compare yourself to others. Only compare yourself to yourself and to the person you were yesterday, right?
Definitely agree.
Yeah, also, you don't see all of the pictures that we do not post online, right, or on the website. And I mean, at least for me, there's there's stacks of bad images before I get one I'm like very happy with and I'm like putting out there.
Definitely. I'm sure you guys also have the same thing, just to give a perspective for the people who are watching, like the last trip when me and Marcel did a collaboration together, and we were traveling the south of Germany, all throughout Bavaria, and all we had was like 3 to 4 hours sleep a day. That's it. And we were always on the road, hunting for new spots, traveling, hitting the place before the weather or the light changes. And we were working like 14 to 16 hours or 18 hours, something like that. And
with the laptop stuff, about
18 to 19 hours. So it's a lot of work that goes behind travel photography, of course. And it's not only to get the perfect picture, but it also involves how you plan in executing the picture and what you wanted to do with the picture later as well. So all these things that should be planned before each trip.
Yeah, I think actually one of the mistakes that I consider that I've made a couple of times is not planning enough on bringing the right gear. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm planning on the transportation and how am I gonna move from one place to another, at what time I want to be there, what am I gonna do? But then I'm not considering what if it rains or what if it's super cold, right? So you have to bring all the cleaning kit to clean your camera and bring something for the rain and be prepared for everything that can happen. Like all the details that we miss we miss a lot of things, right? So we have to consider a lot of time planning more than executing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially when you shoot wildlife, you need to be really prepared.
Definitely. I'm always surprised, like every time when I see Marcela's picture, how big of a bag she wears. If I were to do the same, I would carry my tent, food, and water. That's it, and a smartphone to take the pictures. How do you plan and what do you pack in your gear every time when you travel?
Oh, well, I mean, in the beginning, I was like, travel light, go light in spirit, just take 1 or 2 pairs of different clothing. And now that I gotten more and more into photography, this thing of travel light doesn't work for me anymore, right? We have to take, I take one camera when I'm traveling just for if it's a personal travel. And if I'm working, I like to take 2 cameras in case something happens to one of them. I work with Nikon, so I take my 2 Nikon DSLR cameras. Of course, I would like to change to mirrorless soon because they weigh less. But
you got the D850, right?
Yeah, I have the D850, and I used to work with the Nikon D7100, 7100. So and I take different lenses. So for portraits, wide angles, telephotos, standard lenses, and I also like to take filters sometimes to give a different touch to the photos, like long exposure shots and stuff like that. You always have to consider a tripod, of course. But if I'm going to go hiking, I normally think before what I want and what kind of photographs I want to make. And I try to go as weightless as possible. Maybe only take 1 lens and one camera and maybe my tripod, right? And that's it. So yeah, I always have to consider and think through what I want to do and pack according to that.
Oh.
This is what I love about shooting cities. You don't need that much preparation. You can come to the spot one more time or whatever. But yeah, I also have experience in shooting landscape, and I know it's a lot of preparation, and mostly you really have like 10 to 15 kilos with you.
Yeah, plus the clothing and food and.
Also, maybe one, like, because people were asking how to work on your portfolio and how much time it takes. So one big misconception for me in the beginning was, while I was traveling a lot, but I never put the main focus on photography because I wasn't traveling alone, but with other people who were not into photography. Same. I think, and what I learned now, it is important to, I don't know, you always hear that, but like get up early, stay up late for the good light, and don't expect to get the absolute killer shots if you're just walking around by chance with other people who are not into photography. Of course, you might get like one awesome shot, but normally you really have to work and like try 2-3 different times in the morning, same location to capture this really great shot.
And us photographers don't mind being 2 hours or 3 hours in the same spot, right? So yeah, it's better if you go with someone that's going to be in the same channel as you are.
Yeah, because otherwise they probably wouldn't be happy with like you guys editing 5 hours after shooting for 12 hours and only sleeping for 4 hours, because that's not the idea other people have of like holidays. So maybe find someone who's also passionate about this kind of stuff, who gets up with you early in the morning, or otherwise do it by yourself, and just be aware that this could be like an obstacle if you're traveling with family or with your girlfriend, boyfriend, whomever. Maybe, yeah.
Funny way to put it, but yeah, definitely, totally true.
No, but I mean, if you travel like to the other end of the world and you're only going to be at this location for like 2 days or something, you really want to get the shot, right? So there's not really a point like getting up at 11 o'clock in the morning because your significant other wanted to sleep in or something. So just be aware. Maybe people could be aware of that.
Yeah, it always looks nice in the pictures, but it's mostly exhausting to get all of this stuff.
Absolutely.
But it's also fun. So this is
if you enjoy photography, it absolutely is fun. But I could imagine like if you're more like one of the smartphone shooters who was like, okay, got it, let's go. Well, at least with my girlfriend, it was a long time like that she was not really pleasantly surprised and staying at some place for hours.
How is this for you, Konrad? When you are traveling, for example, to Asia, what gear?
you will laugh because the last trip I did, the initial 1 month trip, my whole baggage was 8 kilos or 8.5 kilos. So everything included, not only camera stuff. I only brought one camera and 2 lenses, which fit in a small camera bag, and one smartphone, and that's it. That was my gear for the 1 month Asia. But this was a private trip, to be honest, or more or less private. I surely have some more gear when I go out shooting. I take a tripod and stuff like this, just in case. But normally very light. Like I really enjoy only go on trips with smartphone. Sometimes it really happens when some client want me to capture smartphone pictures of the city. I really only go with a smartphone or 2 smartphones.
That's something I find really inspiring, right? Like it's a proof that you don't need to have the best camera or the best equipment to take the best photographs, right? And that creativity is in
I don't know if it's the best, but for me, a smartphone is really a good tool. As I take quite 2-dimensional pictures, so I don't get too much into details. Don't get too much into bokeh and all this depth of field stuff. So I can easily take a smartphone for most of my pictures, and it looks still the same, has still the same aesthetics, still the same quality, almost. And yeah, I just like it. Like on my Instagram account, at the moment, it's more than 80% smartphone pictures. So, and this is since 1 year or something. So I kind of got back to a more intuitive mobile photography.
That's cool. Yeah.
I really enjoy mobile photography in the last time as well, because it's like you're so super light and so flexible, and I think it's easier to get creative and you don't have to change the lenses.
Yeah, and there's one
and have a backpack with you and whatever.
Yeah, exactly, the technical part, but there's the main advantage of mobile photography for me is that people are not aware that you're a photographer. When you come to there's like when you come with a long lens, enter a building, everyone knows what you're up to.
True.
And if you just go in a building, and I mean, for me, it always works when I go with a smartphone. Nobody realized that I will take pictures there, and so nobody asks what is my purpose and what I'm doing. So this is next to the technical, the light travel and the technical advantages. This is my main advantage, actually, to not be exposed as a photographer everywhere I go, which is quite helpful. I mean, out in the nature for you guys, it's maybe quite it doesn't matter if you're be seen with a camera or not, because there's not many people outside probably. But when I go to certain locations that brings me a good view of a cityscape or something like this, like I have to go into buildings, and there's like a security or guys like this. They would definitely approach me when I have a camera in my arm or in my somewhere.
I agree. Yeah, sneakiness is important when you're shooting in the city.
Yeah.
But some people are really cool. Like when you're entering and when you just tell them like I'm entering to take pictures, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you can go to this floor. You have a nice angle. Don't go to the other floor where all the other people go. From here, the view is better. They even give you suggestions. Some people are really cool that way, but sometimes you have to be kind of sneaky.
I was surprised in Barcelona. Most of them let them in when you just ask. But for a few, it's not possible, definitely, with a normal camera.
Yeah, it's the same like with drones, right? You always have to
drones is even more difficult,
sure.
I think.
But you have to always consider. And of course, if you're going to take photos of people, you have to consider asking for permission first and not be too intrusive and things like that, right? I see that Sophia is asking here, how do you choose where to shoot and from different angles? I would like to leave this question for you guys in the cities. How do you find these different angles and cool perspectives of all the buildings?
Mostly it's like with a lot of planning. I often, nearly all the time, scout the locations in Google Maps before and see how I can access it, which angles are possible. I also always check the sun angles, so from where the sun is coming, when is the building lit, when I have to be there for the shadows and all the stuff. And mostly I have one shot in my mind before I go, which I really want to take. And after the shot, I just stroll around and try everything spontaneously. Sometimes the shots afterwards are even better, but mostly the one I planned before works the best for me. And it's also really satisfying when you have something on your mind and then afterwards in your computer, you see the final result and you're happy with it. To me, that's a really nice feeling.
But I think you made a good...
Sorry.
I think you made a good point that don't just go there and take this one shot you had in mind, but also keep exploring afterwards. So you might even find an even better angle or something, or you might find something around the corner where it's worth coming back the next day or the next week or in winter or whenever, and just keep some notes of the stuff you're finding. When is it open? When is it easy to get in? And
Jonas is asking here, do you usually fly drones when you're abroad, even if it's illegal? I think we've all done illegal stuff.
How can we kick him out?
Actually, when I met Fabian, do you remember Fabian? When we met, we were sneaking in a building, just you do a lot of illegal stuff, like getting in places without permission and trying to pass unnoticed. And but I think it's always important to consider that you are not putting someone else in danger or putting yourself in danger.
Yes,
so,
most important.
I mean, maybe as long as it is in your possibilities and you're not really risking your life or someone else's life, don't go too extreme.
Yeah, especially now that more people are dying from taking selfies worldwide than from whatever shark attacks or shit like that. So yeah, maybe don't push it too far.
Yeah, know your limits definitely when you fly a drone. Definitely.
I never did it.
I tried it a few times, but I'm always shaking.
I know. Me too.
Only when I need a drone shot, I have one friend who's really experienced, and I say, "Hey, come over. I'm gonna spend you a meal or whatever. Take this with your drone, and most of the stuff is done in a few minutes." Yeah, but I don't have a drone at the moment.
I mostly have Jack to start and land the drone, so I can just fly around a bit in between, and the difficult stuff is he taking care of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it's cool, like because Marcel is also kind of like being responsible and doesn't take the steps that he's kind of unsure about. So he gives me the parts which needs to be taken care. So this is kind of very important. Like as Fabian mentioned, like should be super careful and take care of ourselves and others. This is the main priority, and then comes the fun part. So you can of course practice a lot even in different places. Here, even in Berlin, like when you leave the 6 kilometer radius, you can still practice in a lot of different fields. So I would say like for the drones, definitely need some practice before going crazy outside. But yeah, don't take the risk before you're confident enough.
So are there any other questions?
I think I would like to ask you something. What is your purpose with photography, or what is your why you shoot photographs? All of you. What do you find the motivation in photography? Like, is it sharing? Is it making someone else happy? Is it what's your main goal with photography?
Somebody else want to start?
Well, I think I shoot mostly for myself, actually, in the very first place, and this is also why I don't. I mean, I only show like a fraction of the work I created, but I feel. I mean, often people ask like, "Oh, but don't you feel like you are not experiencing the place when you're only looking through the viewfinder?" But for me, it's actually the opposite way around. Through photography, I actually see a lot of places at different times of the day and like pay way more attention to certain like landmarks, objects, mountains, whatever it might be. I'm not just passing by, but I'm really sitting there like watching the light. So I feel I get it afterwards, hopefully a deeper understanding of the place than people who are just like jumping out of the bus, looking at it, taking a snapshot, leaving. So I guess it's different when you spend a lot of time at one place. So I think it's a better, for me, makes a better travel experience.
Yeah, like paying attention to the details, right?
Yeah. Also getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a city, who else is like really experiencing a foreign city at 3 o'clock in the morning? It can be very interesting, for example. A lot of people will never see it or never get up if they don't do it for photography or whatever weird other reason, but
yeah, true.
Yeah, so I think it really enhances the whole travel experience for me.
Definitely agree. Yeah, for me, it all started as a fun. Like as a few people love traveling. When I started this, like there was not so much of this Instagram presence happening that time. So it was all Facebook only that time. So I was just traveling different places. My goal was to just take pictures of the places I've been to and share it with my friends and family. And then I grew interest over this field and started investing more time in learning what I can do with the camera. And it took me almost like first 1.5 years to kick me out of auto mode to manual mode. I was always thinking, like, why would people even do that? Like in manual mode, you have to control everything. And in auto mode, the camera does everything for you. You can just click a picture. And also, I was not shooting in RAW at all, like for almost 1.5 years. Also, just in the thinking that, okay, it takes up so much space. And also, some of the computers cannot view RAW images directly. You have to load it in another software to view it. So I was like, why people go through all this pain? And then I learned it the hard way. And of course, like over the period of time, I started investing on myself and learning new skills and trying out different things. It always comes to practice all the time. Like it's really hard to get the right shot the first time. And that's when I found this website 500px, where if you click on the picture and you scroll down, you can see the settings to the images. So that was my main learning tool. I did not learn it from any school or anything. So just from the 500px, when I see a certain settings, I go outside, try that setting, come back and compare with the primary image. And always trying to see how I can beat that to make the scene even look better. And then I started social media, and then of course all things came up on the way.
Yeah, 500px is a great platform. I would encourage all beginner photographers to take a look into it, and there's a lot to learn from it. Very nice work.
Definitely. And now it's always like it's for me personally, it's always that when I'm sharing something, like when I do something and share it with people, I don't have the feeling of insecurity to myself, because I'm sharing it doesn't mean like I'm losing the secret. It also pushes me to learn something new to make myself better in what I'm doing right now. So this is why I started, after a long struggle, I started YouTube channel because I'm completely not used to having my face in front of the camera. Always try to stay behind.
How did you find the motivation to finally do it? Because I'm thinking about this stuff since I don't know for how long, but I'm so uncomfortable in front of the camera.
I know. It's so funny. Tell us about it.
So what I did right here, like even it's still challenging for me, but I'm not shooting with my regular DSLR. I'm using a compact camera and keeping in front of me. So I feel it's less intimidating compared to a DSLR. And of course, since we are spending so much time in making our photography better, like we don't settle down easily with the video quality. Like we always try to overthink it. But I thought like, okay, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. So I started it. Of course, my first few videos are really shit, like when I compare to what I'm doing right now. And I did not even make videos for longer, just like 2 or 3 months, but I already see so much difference. And it's also, I understand that it's time which I spend to improve my quality, my skill and the quality. So yeah, I would definitely advise to start. And this is also one of the reasons why I was not joining TikTok before, because it's also one of the social medias that's blowing up right now.
Yeah.
And I was always like, when I go there, I see that, okay, this is completely different kind of content that I would make, or I have to really make. But after some time, I'm in the platform for last 1 week, and now I'm enjoying it because I know what kind of content people like. I'm trying to put different types of content in different places. So in my Instagram, I'm just posting about travel pictures. In my YouTube, I'm posting tutorials about editing and photography and gear and everything. And in TikTok, I'm posting more of the content that the people over there might like.
Yeah, it's important to be present in all of the platforms, huh?
Definitely. Yes, I would highly recommend that. I'm trying to manage this all in the free time that I have after my 9 to 5. So this is why like I'm not able to go overboard. But I think like when there is an opportunity, definitely I would advise everyone to do that. Same with LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is amazing to blow up your content and create amazing connections within a few days. Like also same, like I started LinkedIn for my profile about a month or month and a half ago, and now I have almost 500 connections there with people of similar interest. And maybe if people are posting like the right content, and if someone might be interested, they might contact you and you can get easily a job.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think multiple channels.
I saw someone here asking about how to start going international. as a photographer, and I think this is part of it, being present in all the different platforms and reaching out to people. I think also LinkedIn is one of the better ones at this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because most of the people who are using it are business people, not a lot of kids or normal people. All people on LinkedIn do business somehow, so it's easier to reach the people you have to reach as a freelancer. I also started 6 weeks ago on LinkedIn, and it's really working well. You can grow super fast, you have a good reach, and it's really a strong German audience over there. So it's really recommended. Yeah.
Are there any people listening still? Because I think we're already over time for our talk.
I think we still have like 7 minutes, no? 2:30, or are we already?
Yeah.
2:30. Okay. I thought it
30,
was 1 hour exactly. So okay. Then we start. Sorry, that was my fault. Yes. Maybe if there's no questions at the moment, maybe you can all tell one of your favorite travel moment, memory, or whatever, or maybe your most embarrassing or something.
That would be funny. Yeah. Anyone? Oh no. I think I would like to share maybe one of the most beautiful and at the same time difficult times that I've lived in photography. And there was like 2 years ago, I was on this expedition in the Andes in Bolivia, and we were trying to summit Huayna Potosí, which is a 6,000-meter mountain, and we were climbing up, and it was freezing, and it was still dark. We had to start walking in the middle of the night, but then it was, I don't know, like 6 o'clock in the morning or 5, and the sun starts rising. I had the camera with me, and of course the batteries in my jacket pockets because they consume too fast with the cold. And I saw a moment that I wanted to capture, and it was when the sun was rising, and there was one of my colleagues, one of my friends walking behind me, and then I turn around and I see him, and the sun was coming out on the horizon. So I take my camera and try to make a photo of the moment. And it was still low light, so I had to shoot at like 1/20 of a second. So I had also to hold my breath and try to not move. And 10 seconds later, I was realizing that I couldn't feel my hands anymore, and that I was freezing, and that my face and everything, I couldn't feel my fingers. And it was difficult because it hurt a lot. But then I realized that's what matters for me. Is about, it doesn't matter if I don't feel my fingers, it doesn't matter if I'm freezing, it doesn't matter whatever I feel, but what matters to me is making people feel what I was experiencing in that moment, right? The beauty of nature and what's out there. So yeah, when I saw the results of that image and seeing it out there, people enjoying what I was seeing, it's a big reward for me. So I think that was beautiful and difficult at the same time, but it's part of it.
I agree, yeah.
Sometimes you have to go in a major trouble while having a photography session while traveling.
Sorry, come again? Was that a question for me?
Did any of you get into a major trouble somehow, like in a photography session on traveling?
Actually, for me, yes. Like when I was living in China, I wanted to travel to some places, but I kind of learned it in a difficult way that I was there at the spot. I've had my hotel reservations and everything. But one thing is that in China, when you're traveling, you have to make sure the place that you're staying has a permit to allow foreigners to stay. And this place did not tell me that, and I was there and I couldn't check in at a hotel at all. Like there were no places in that small little town that can accept foreigners. So I had to, like, instead of staying there for 3 or 4 days, I had to come back in half a day, just because like I did not have like I couldn't stay anywhere there. So it was one of the trips that I wish I could have done. Like I have not explored a lot of China, even though I was living there for a few years, just because of the fact that you have to do a lot of preparation and understand which places can accommodate you, or know a local in every place, or travel with the locals so that they can get a reservation and you can stay in the hotel. Hong Kong is a different story. Hong Kong is super international compared to a lot of places in China. You can almost stay in all the places. But in China, like even the places which has a permit can be super expensive compared to all the other places.
I've never been to Hong Kong, never been to Asia, so it's definitely on my. Well, no, I'm kidding. I've been to Nepal.
You've been to Nepal,
the Himalayas. No? That's the only.
Yeah, that's in Asia.
Yeah, so that's in Asia. So, but yeah, there's still a lot for me to explore out there.
Yeah, I also used to live in China for a year, and we had a research project in Tibet, and there also Chinese people are not like really keen if you take too many photos in Tibet, and they're like monitoring you basically all the time. And almost at the end of our trip, it was through university, they had police sent over and wanted to confiscate the SD cards, which they did in the end, but we backed it up. So still got the footage, but yeah, always back up your stuff. And maybe if you're traveling to places like that, have a VPN connection set up in advance.
Great advice.
Like send as much stuff home as you can, because you never know, in the end you might lose everything. This was still back in the days when it was like 16 gig cards or something like that. So it was not like a huge financial loss, but it would have been horrible to lose all of the footage in the end. So yeah, Chinese people, yeah, they don't really understand the fun when it comes to that. That was like super German, but.
That's why you think it's also very important before you travel, consider and do some research on the culture of the place that you're going to, right? So
oh yeah, absolutely,
definitely
absolutely.
something.
Especially in primarily Muslim countries, for example. We've been to parts or cities in Indonesia where people don't really appreciate having their photo taken, especially men, when they think you're going to take a photo of their wife or something. This can lead to a very difficult situation. So definitely do your research on the local culture before.
Always, yeah. And what about you, Conrad? Any difficult situation that you've been particularly in?
I'm not in a very dangerous situation, but actually when I make up my mind, there was one that was a bit tricky also in China, in Shanghai, when we came with my girlfriend in 2016, I think, 2016, and we wanted to get up on some rooftops and went with a local girl. She was in rooftop urban exploring community a lot. And then we went to one very classic ledge that is in 150 meter height, and you have a view of the whole skyline and stuff like this. But you have to enter the residential building, sneak in, and hide a bit because there's cameras everywhere. And we had a slot of 10 minutes. We said like not more than 10 minutes. And after 3 minutes, there was a security guy coming up to us and like really screaming really loud. And we were really lucky because he wanted initially to call the police, and if the police once is called, it's very tricky, as you said. But the girl that was with us, she was able to speak in Chinese and could calm him down, the security guy, but he was really mad at us. That was a bit tricky, but not too much. Like I experienced more severe situations actually here in Berlin. But, for example, in last thing, also in 2016 we were detained because we went to one building rooftop in Haus der Statistik, and there was we were standing on the edge and taking photos, and people thought that one of us will commit suicide.
No.
So they called the police, and there was like 15 police officers coming and emergency cars and everything, and we wanted to hide in the building because we were unsure if they are still aware that we are in the building. And the building has like 1,000 rooms, like literally. So we were locked in one of the rooms, which is completely empty, the building. And yes, then they come with a megaphone and shouted at us like we should leave the building, and we just stayed there for an hour or something. And it was like from 15 police officers was 30 police officers or something. They got around the whole building, and then they came with dogs even.
No way.
And then we tried to go to the front roof, which is on the second or third floor, and try to jump down from the front roof. But there was everywhere there was police officers, so they could see us immediately when we hopped out of the window, and they came up to us, and we really got these handcuffs, and even the Bild-Zeitung, like a big newspaper here in Germany, they came and took photographs of our detainment, and it was big in media next day. And some people even recognized me on the picture, so it was quite embarrassing, but it wasn't a travel movie.
Sounds like a good way to get some extra exposure.
Yeah, so they didn't tag me or something. They just said like like harassment of private property, and they also wrote in one article. There was like a few newspapers, and in one article they said, selfie. What was it, like a selfie shooting? It's like we are standing like this.
Wow, that's fun.
Do you still have the snippet to the article?
Sorry?
Do you still have the snippet to the article?
Yeah, I can Google this. Wait, I'm not very proud. But,
Wow, well, that's quite a story. It would be very fun to look at it. I'd love to. Wow, something I think I've learned also along the way is to always consider the worst, right? You never know what's going to happen, and when you're out there, almost always never goes as planned. So just be ready for it and flow with it.
And keep in
So
mind
Sophia here has asked if we have any photo expeditions to be part of. Like Marcela, you and Fabian, you guys do private tours, right? Or like planned tours to explore.
It's actually one of the things that I would like to start doing, like organizing trips with groups and doing photography trips, So we are going to be like a group of 5 to 10 people, and then we're going to go to somewhere remote and take photos. I would be happy to let you know once I start doing them.
Yeah, so I'm only running photo tours and workshops in Berlin because I was born and raised here, so I feel like I know the city very well and can like offer value during these tours. I don't just by myself. I don't really run any kind of tours in other countries or even German cities because, to me, it feels like you should know the spot really, really well in order to add value to someone else's holiday or trip or photo trip, whatever. So
for me and Marcel, like we have done 1 or 2 walks with Beazy together, like have a photo walk together in Berlin. Also, sorry? Yeah.
Always recommended.
Yeah.
Also for networking, I think those photo walks are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can also learn a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one last advice is just go to
tricky.
Sorry, I think I'm losing you. No, just go where where there's always people you can learn from, right? When I'm traveling and there's some other photographers there, I always try to ask all the questions and be close with them, and that's always going to be learning for free. So get as close as you can, and you're going to learn a lot.
Especially when you have a trip coming up, you could just try and make contact or get in contact with local photographers through Instagram. You're gonna save a lot of time and might even wanna hang out with them and learn from them, and maybe they are nice enough to take you to their favorite spots or whatever. It's always, I think, a good first step if you're traveling and coming to a city you've never been before. You're maybe not too familiar with or something. Then just reach out to people on Instagram. Most of the time, they are pretty happy to help you.
So we are at time right now. So maybe as a quick thank you to everyone of you guys and also the people who joined us. And yeah, let's leave our social media handles here in the chat for our people to reach us out quickly.
Oh yes, promotion.
And and if they have any questions, yeah, they can always reach us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, guys, thank you all for listening. Yeah, as told, even afterwards, don't be shy. Contact us if you have any questions. We're always happy to help. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I learned a lot from you guys today, and very, very good sharing this with you. And I hope to see you soon. I hope we can meet soon.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks, guys, for joining.
Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.
Nice seeing you guys.
Nice seeing you.